Hello everybody, Necromancy for Kids here, bringing you my second ever IRL deck profile, this time with a new camera. Feel free to razz me in the comments over all the mistakes and weird things, but just don't go too hard, alright? I made a bunch of casual decks recently, and I wanted to share them with people now that I actually have a collection and some decks built. And I figured what I would do is I would start with the deck that really rocketed me into playing Goat format, which was my Tree Goat Beastdown deck. I have it in my, in my videos, and it was the first deck that I ever won a tournament with, although it was an 8-person tournament, so it wasn't like that amazing. I got together a bunch of cards to build that deck. It's not exactly the same. There are some differences. One difference being that this is a casual version of the deck, which means for me that I am not going to include Delinquent Duo. If you're playing in a competitive sense, definitely you would want to include it, I think. However, I think that if you're playing with your friends just for fun, the game is a lot simpler and more fun to just mess around with if you don't have Delinquent Duo in the pool. That said, let me get into the deck profile. And of course, Tree Goat Beastdown cannot start without Giant Rat. I got one rare rat that I pulled from the cards in my card pull video, and I've also got two more giant rats. I'll note that this is as blinged out as I could make the deck based off of the cards that I had in my collection, and without spending like $100 on new cards that I pretty much already had anyway. Then I've got Berserk Gorilla, 1, 2, 3 of them. Just a good beater, and it is a beast monster. Can crash with Blade Knight, and also it synergizes with what turns this deck into Beastdown, which is Enraged Battle Ox, which I am running 2 of. Originally, I was running 3, but I decided that in this meta, it isn't quite worth it to run 3 of them, and even if you're in a casual game, it's probably not going to put in too much work by itself, but it's still a fun card to use, and it synergizes, or rather, glues the deck together so that all the cards synergize. And then, on top of that, I have 2 Chiron the Mage. Pitch a spell card to pop 1 back row, 1800 attack, and it's a Beast Warrior, so it works with our Enraged Battle Ox. And I've also got 2 Gyakugiri Panda. You could go down to 1, but I wanted to keep this as close to the original deck as possible, so I'm running 2 of them. And on top of that, I'm also using now in the deck 1 copy of Bazu the Soul Eater, because it's a really good beater monster, and especially later in the game, you can run over pretty much anything except for BLS with it. Then on top of the Bazu, we've got, of course, Injection Fairy Lily, one of my favorite cards in the game. And this is a lily that I've had since my childhood, so it actually means a whole lot to me as well. And of course, we've got Exiled Force. And rounding out the Earth strategy, we have Gigantes at 1. You could run more, of course, but for me, I don't want to turn this too much to Earth aggro. I want it to be a Beastdown deck, like the original idea was. And besides, if you run too many, then Bazu isn't that great either. And if Bazu's not that great, then why are we running it? Then the non-Earth monsters, I've got Breaker and Tribe Infecting Virus. That rounds it up for the monsters. So of course, going to go into 1 Pot of Greed, And I've got also a Graceful Charity. Again, I'm not playing duo because this is meant to be casual, but of course, if you're playing this competitively, you definitely want to play a duo, I think, at least in the sideboard. And we've also got Snatch Steal, Premature, Heavy Storm, and this is the red MST that I've talked about a whole lot in the past. I'm finally able to show you guys up close. I've had this since like 2010, I think. I brought it to a tournament and everyone's like, what the heck is that? It always surprises people, but then when they see it, they're like, oh, okay, that's MST. Obviously, if you're ever going to have an altered card, make sure that you ask the tournament organizer if it's okay to use. Then I've got one super nobleman and one not so super nobleman. And also I've got Book of Moon, Book of Moon, Book of Moon. Triple Book of Moon, so that you can put monsters face down and do piercing damage with your awesome Enraged Battle Ox. And I've got 2 Scapegoats, which will strategize, or rather synergize with these next cards, which are Enemy Controller ×2. Again, it works with Enraged Battle Ox, and you contribute your Scapegoat tokens to be able to take an opponent's monster. And also we are playing Guy Power at 2 in this deck, which will even boost the Scapegoat tokens, so you end up being able to basically have a repeatable 500 damage to the opponent each turn. And I've even used the boosted Scapegoat tokens to destroy opponents' Sinister Serpents and their Magician of Faiths in defense mode, so that my bigger monsters can get in. And we're running 1 Terraforming because you don't really need 3 Gaia Power, and this way you have a way to be able to set the card. You can thin your deck, and also you can just pitch it for, of course, the Chiron the Mage. And then on top of that, got the rounding out for traps. We don't have many because we want a lot of spells for Chiron the Mage. We have Tribute, Torrential Tribute, and we've got Mirror Force. Then we have this Sweet Call of the Haunted that I got from my friend in high school when he quit Yu-Gi-Oh! And I've kept it ever since. You'll see some of these cards are kind of beat up like this. Even though they're beat up, to me they have a lot of sentimental value, and cards that look beat up, they tell a story and they have character to them. And I don't like to get rid of them, trade them off, or anything. I like, if I can, to use them. Obviously, if they're too damaged, then you can't really do that, because then you end up being able to pick the cards out of your deck, whether on purpose or accident. So yeah. And then we finish it off, 40 cards, with Ring of Destruction. You could, instead of running the traps, or instead of some of them, you could run Royal Decree, but I always think that that's not very fun, and it's really, sometimes the Royal Decree also isn't good against certain decks. And again, this is a casual deck. It's meant more for fun, so the more fun option is the better option. So that is the deck profile. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. I've got 6 or 7 more decks that I can show off. Actually, maybe even 8 more decks that I can show off if you guys would like. Let me know if you would in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.